Now, welcome back. We like to apologize that we're not able to bring you that interview in the police corner for this edition, but we hope we can bring it to you sometime later this week. Now, the Office of the Prime Minister has so far indicated that 364 households have been severely affected by flood water in the region, and approximately 8,646 pupils from 22 schools in the Angwena region were affected by the floods. Now, the Office of the Prime Minister collaborated with the Angwena Regional Council to establish temporary relocation sites to house those who have been severely affected by the floods. Now, joining us with more details on this, on the effects of what the flash floods had on the Angwena region and also the Oshana regions, is the Director of Disaster Risk Management, the Office of the Prime Minister, Ms. Helen Likando. Good morning, Madam, and welcome to GMN.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Okay. Now, let's get into this discussion. Let's talk about the fact that these floods are perhaps not anything new. They are a reoccurring event on each year, but this year they appear to be worse, especially with the north and the northeastern regions really being affected. Can you say perhaps that the country was well equipped and well prepared for these floods?
I would say yes. The past few years have seen the disaster risk management system in Namibia being able to prepare and respond to multiple hazards. So our country is prone to natural and climate-induced disasters such as droughts, wildfires, human and animal diseases, as well as floods like the currently that we are experiencing in the northern part of the country. For example, before these floods came, or when the flood came, we have already been responding to droughts in Kunene region, part of Omsati, as well as part of Irongo region. Logistically, we have always kept minimum stock levels in strategic warehouses, mainly in Oshana warehouse, as well as the main warehouse in Windhoek. These relief items ranges from tents, stock items ranges from tents, water tanks, mobile latrines, food, and many other items that are stored in these warehouses for eventualities. As a result, we have been ready anytime to handle floods or any other kind of hazard that may affect the nation.
Okay. Now, let's talking about these flash floods. If we were so prepared, why does it appear to be that not much is really being done, or we are waiting perhaps for the floods to have taken and to have affected people before we started issues such as relocating and assisting, those were the schools that may be affected, only responding to setting up tents? Why is that perhaps the case?
Usually what happens is that each region have got a multi-hazard contingency plan. This plan details exactly what to do in an event of floods. First thing is to call an emergency regional disaster risk management committee, where you apportion responsibilities according to mandates of different institutions. It's followed by identification of possible relocation camps. It's followed by counting what kind of resources do you have. You do an assessment of what is required on the ground. How many people are affected? How many people may require to be relocated, for example. So what we do is that the Oshana Regional Warehouse is the strategic warehouse that serves all the northern regions. In that warehouse, there are always tents. There are always, as I have said earlier, minimum stock levels that allows you to respond immediately. But in case of Ohangwena, there were also minimum quantities of tents that were available in Oshikango warehouse. So when the flood happened, they were able to use the tents that were available in Oshikango warehouse. And then that was supplemented by tents that were available in Oshana warehouse. And eventually we were able to dispatch more tents from the main warehouse in Windhoek that went still to Oshikango warehouse as well as Oshana warehouse to cater for Oshana region as well, and potentially for Msati in case there will be a need there.
Okay. Now, talking about this reallocation and temporary relocation sites to house those houses who are severely affected by floods, please enlighten us, especially with regards to Hangwena. How many sites were allocated? How many people it has accommodated, especially with your collaboration with the Hangwena region and also by extension the Oshana region?
So far, there are 7 relocation centers that have been established in Ohangwena region. This is Onaminda Relocation Center in Oshikango constituency, where there are 10 households being relocated there, translating to 52 people. In extension 7, still in Oshikango constituency, there are 9 households there, translating to 39 people being relocated. There is an open area behind Puma service station where there are 7 households, translating to 79 people. And then Odikwanyama location, there are 11 households, translating to 25 people. There is Onamukolo relocation camp with 11 households. 64 people. There is Ohaingu relocation camp with 5 households and 29 people. East Ohangwena at police station, there is a camp with 7 households being relocated there, translating to 44 people. And altogether, yes, total of people relocated is 364. That is in Ohangwena. Whereas in Oshana region, there are 3 relocation camps so far. One being Ehenye Relocation Center, where you have 36 households being relocated, translating to 177 people in that camp. And then there is Adolf Relocation with 2 households and 11 people. There is Oshinyadhila Relocation Center with 1 household, but has 11 people in total. In Oshana region, there are 199 people in these relocation centers. Whereas for Musati, there are no relocation, they have been identified, but there are no relocation
as of yet.
As of yet, yes.
Okay. Now let's talk about the fact that you mentioned that there are many strategic partners that are involved in this process of relocation and helping with the issue of flash floods. Let's talk about particularly perhaps, since we've discussed the number of tents that were discharged in Angona region and specifically Oshikango, let's talk about the role of the Defence Force. What has been the role of the Namibian Defence Force during these flash flooding times?
The Namibian Defence Force are strategic stakeholders in humanitarian efforts. It's an auxiliary service that they render to citizens. From onset, they have released a helicopter that has been used by the hydrological services for monitoring the water levels, both in Namibia and in Angola. But on the ground, they have also released a number of trucks that have been used to relocate people from villages to relocation camps. They stand ready. They have been also putting up tents and helping logistically. In Oshana region, the regional council have pulled together all stakeholders. They are working very closely with the town council, Oshakati Town Council, where the fire brigade unit of the town council is on the ground day and night, relocating people, registering them, putting up these tents and so on. It's not only limited to the members of the NDF. The police are also very active in evacuating citizens, especially the elderly. You find that they are hesitant to move. So in that case, the police has always been very helpful to accompany those that are relocating people to safer ground.
Okay. Now perhaps maybe an uncomfortable conversation that we mostly not having so much in Namibia is a question that if we know majorities of these areas are flash flood prone, meaning this activity is likely to reoccur once in a while, maybe every other second year, maybe even next year, possibly it might be worse. Why is it that perhaps these affected persons are not being moved to higher ground? Is there no possibility of permanently removing those who are residing there and permanently shifting them to higher grounds?
Efforts have been done. In the past, we have been creating awareness through different authorities, from traditional authorities to engage communities, educate them, the regional council. But you find that sometimes what has happened is that when you create awareness this year, because these people have been affected, they felt the impact, they move. But then new people will come next year. When they come, they find places that are open, and they will think, I mean, it's unoccupied. You'll find that sometimes new people are coming in, they settle in those areas. But sometimes you find those that are just resisting, there's nowhere that I'm moving to. I was born in this area. My forefathers have been buried here. I cannot move. So those are the few challenges that you experience.
Okay. Now let's talk about some of the facts. Is there a plan for a makeshift school or lessons to be temporarily be established, especially for those 8,646 learners from 22 schools in the Angwena that have been affected by these floods?
And many more in Oshana region, as well as Omsati regions.
Yes.
The decision to close schools were taken jointly with community members, parents, and it was taken in the best interest of the learners in order to ensure safety. However, the Ministry of Education, Art and Culture continues to assess the possible mechanisms for the learners to continue with lessons. They are monitoring and working out possible solutions as to what can be done to ensure continuity in learning. Yes.
Okay, now let's talk about the other role of a strategic partner, which is very crucial, is the Ministry of Health and Social Services. What has been their role specifically during these times?
The Ministry of Health, yes, is one of the key stakeholders in this crisis. Since the establishment of the relocation centers, the ministry has been conducting awareness campaigns to sensitize and educate affected communities on effects of floods, ranging from waterborne diseases. On average of 19,000 water purification sachets and 48,000 tablets were distributed to affected communities by the Ministry of Health. They have been providing psychosocial support to affected communities. They have held education sessions to at least 54 people of the affected communities. In Engela, District Hospital has established treatment points for villages that cannot access health facilities due to floods. And these points are Oimbandalunga, Ongala, Yamutota, Engeva in Ongenga. The outreach health team has so far treated 85 patients and immunized 35 children as from 23 January to date. This is what they have been doing in the field.
Okay, quite
some of the things
that they've done in the field. Yeah. Right. Sister, maybe before we conclude our conversation this morning, do we expect maybe the rain to subside over the coming days, or do we expect additional flooding maybe to occur? And perhaps just a message of cautionary, especially to those that are in the Msati region, Oshana, as well as the Angwena region?
We are still in the rain season. As forecasted before, that we should expect normal to above normal rainfall. We should expect more rainfall up to the end of the season. So I would still urge people to be alert, to be vigilant, and I feel that let's take care of our community members, especially the elderly people. the children. These are vulnerable members of the community that require special attention during the time of crossing waters and so on. I will also appeal to traditional leaders to identify earth dams in their respective areas by putting signage boards just to indicate that, because sometimes people are walking in water, it's shallow water. You never know where the earth dam starts and you end up drowning. Let's work together and protect one another.
Okay. And you mentioned something very important there, Madam Helen. It's the issue of these earth dams, and the question perhaps also that is lingering on many Namibians is the issue of how to harvest this water that comes as a result of flash floods and then ends up going to waste and possibly not being used. Are there mechanisms being developed, especially from the Office of the Prime Minister and perhaps government as a whole, to try and see how we can best try to harvest this water and perhaps use it for other ventures such as community gardens or green schemes that we might have?
That is, it's everybody's concern. Lately, everybody has been talking about why are we not harvesting this water and so on. But I keep saying the experts who are the hydrologists in the Ministry of Agriculture have been working on exploring the ways and mechanisms on how to channel these waters. But again, let us not look at it as this water being wasted. This water is flowing in water channels, going up to Etosha Pens. Of course, it can be controlled. But remember, the idea that let us harvest this water, if we harvested this water immediately as it entered Namibia there, this water would have not reached where it is today. We live in a semi-arid country where it's very dry. We have been in drought for the past 5-6 years. And it was becoming difficult lately to drill boreholes because the aquifer, it was getting dry. So now that this water is flowing, it's recharging the underground sources. So as it moves, it's not really being wasted. It can still be used after, but it's a good idea. They are looking at it just to control its movement so that it doesn't go all over and affect many communities. Ministry of Agriculture is working on that, yes.
Okay. Well, Madam Helen, thank you very much for making time to join us this morning, and definitely we wish you all the best in this mammoth task of ensuring that people are informed, especially what they need to do when it comes to flash floods.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, that was Madam Helen Likando, who's the Director of Risk Management in the Office of the Prime Minister, talking to us about the flash floods that are currently in the Umsati, Ohangwena as well, Shana region, and also advising what necessary actions that need to be taken in order to avoid perhaps possible disaster as a result of these floods that are reoccurring.